All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to try to break some bones, metaphorically, of course.
We're talking MMA.
Yeah. We are diving into the world of strength and conditioning for mixed martial arts.
This is going to be fun.
It is going to be fun. And to help us along the way, we've got this pretty awesome book, Strength and Conditioning for Mixed Martial Arts, a practical guide for the busy athlete by Will Peveler.
It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful, but it's a good book. So, if you are interested in this topic at all, definitely check it out. But for all of you busy folks who don't have time to, read a whole book about getting in shape for MMA, we're doing the work for you.
We are breaking it down, extracting the insights, bringing it to you. And this is not, just for the pros, right? This is for anybody
Absolutely.
who is interested in MMA.
Yeah, so whether you're a weekend warrior who's thinking about maybe, dipping your toe in the water, or you are a coach who's working with MMA athletes, or even if you're just, curious about the science behind how to get in shape for, really anything. This is a good deep dive to listen to.
And what's so cool about this book is, he breaks it down into practical advice.
Yeah.
Equipment, physiology, nutrition, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, and what I really liked about it is that, he clearly understands that most people who are interested in this are not, professional fighters.
Of course.
Who can dedicate their entire lives to training.
Right.
So he really gives a lot of advice and tips about how to fit it into, a busy schedule. And he even talks about how he, trains at a home gym, in part just to cut down on the time it takes to get to and from a gym.
Which is super practical advice.
Yeah, super practical.
Because that's the first hurdle, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
If it's not convenient,
you're
not going to stick with it.
Consistency is king.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right, so, you're thinking about maybe you want to get in fighting shape.
Yeah.
Even if it's just, fighting shape for life in general.
Right.
First step. Got to see your doctor.
Absolutely.
Got to make sure that you're good to go.
Yes. The book stresses that, especially if you're not used to exercising, haven't had a recent physical.
Yeah.
Just to be safe.
Yeah. Any underlying conditions, that's definitely the first step.
Yep.
All right. So we got the green light from the doc. We're feeling good. Now, where do we train?
So the book really emphasizes finding a facility that is convenient for you.
Absolutely.
As we already said, consistency.
Right.
Right. You want to go somewhere you can actually get to.
Absolutely.
So think about that when you're picking a gym.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of these MMA gyms also do, strength and conditioning as well.
Of course. Yeah.
So you can kind of get it all in one spot, which...
Right. Stop shop.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, again, the convenience factor is huge. But the book also mentions that there are certain things you need to look out for.
Right.
So free trials. If they offer free trials, take advantage of it.
See if you like it.
Yeah. Try before you buy.
Yeah. And month-to-month contracts.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to say that. Don't sign up for like a year
Don't get
long contract before you know if it's even a good fit.
And I mean, styles, right? There's all sorts of different gyms that specialize in different things. If you're interested in MMA, try and find an MMA-specific gym that blends different styles together.
And I think also, and I know this can be a little maybe touchy-feely, whatever, but the vibe.
Absolutely.
The culture, the attitude.
Yeah, the gym that the author even uses the word family when he talks about, a good gym.
A good gym should feel like a family.
And you really want to, he strongly advises people to pay attention to how people interact.
Yeah.
Not just, during sparring or whatever, but before, after, how does everyone, treat each other?
Yeah.
Because that tells you a lot about the gym. Yeah. And also he mentions, and this is really important, avoiding gyms that have this kind of like spar hard every time mentality.
Right. Because, hard sparring is valuable.
But it shouldn't be the default.
Exactly.
And it shouldn't be, ego-driven.
Right, exactly. It should be strategic. It should be, with the right kind of protective equipment.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be, absorbing unnecessary punishment. All right. So, practical stuff, gym hours.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure they, jive with your schedule, peak times.
Yeah.
When is it really busy? If you can avoid those times, then you're going to, get a much more efficient workout.
Of course.
And the author even talks about, if you have the space and the money, he makes a pretty good case for a home gym.
Yes.
For at least the strength and conditioning part.
Right.
He points out that over time, you can actually save money.
Right.
Compared to, a recurring gym membership fee.
And think about the convenience. You're busy. You don't have to drive it anywhere. It's right there.
Right.
You can squeeze in a workout whenever.
It's harder to make excuses, right?
Absolutely. Less excuses, better results.
Totally. Okay, so we found our gym, whether it's at home or a commercial gym or whatever.
Right.
Now we got to gear up.
Gotta have the tools.
Yeah, let's talk equipment.
The book breaks it down, starting with gloves.
Gloves, yeah.
And this is a big topic, right?
Yeah.
It's not just a matter of picking up any pair.
Right, exactly. So he breaks down, there are different types of gloves.
Different types of gloves. Boxing gloves, Muay Thai gloves, MMA gloves, hybrids.
Right. And the first thing is like material.
Yeah.
What are they made of? And the classic debate.
Yeah.
Leather versus synthetic.
Right.
And he lays it out pretty nicely.
Leather, it can be very durable. If you take care of it, it's breathable.
But it's also going to smell eventually.
Yeah, it will, but I mean, so will synthetics.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And also, the padding will break down over time regardless.
Yes.
But a well-made synthetic glove
Mm-hmm.
can, outperform.
At last.
Yeah, poorly made leather glove. And the technology with synthetic materials has just gotten so good.
It's come a long way.
But no matter what type of glove, what material, the most important thing is fit.
Fit is crucial.
You got to try them on.
With hand wraps.
Yes, this is very important.
Try them on with hand wraps.
You're going to be wearing hand wraps underneath those gloves.
Exactly.
So you got to make sure that the whole, package feels good. It should be snug, but not too tight.
Exactly. You should be able to make a fist.
Yeah, as much of a fist as you can, depending on the type of glove.
Yes.
And then closure. How do they close?
Lace up versus Velcro.
Laces. Classic.
Classic.
Secure.
Very secure.
Great wrist support.
The best wrist support.
But if you're by yourself, pain in the butt to get them on and off.
So for most training situations, Velcro is the way to go.
Yeah, modern Velcro systems offer really good wrist support.
Yeah.
And they're so convenient. You can slip them on and off, transition quickly between drills. Exactly. Okay, so when do we know it's time to retire our gloves?
So the book says about 8 to 12 months, depending on how hard you train.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense because even with, the best gloves, eventually that padding is going to get compressed.
They're going to break down.
It's not going to be absorbing the impact as well. Tears, maybe the seams start to come apart.
And the smell.
Oh, the smell, yeah. If you can't get rid of the smell, it's time for a new pair.
Yeah. You've probably been putting it off too long anyway at that point.
And specifically for boxing and Muay Thai gloves, he mentions that the size of the glove actually impacts how much force you can generate.
So smaller gloves, they allow you to generate more force.
So for competition, you want to go a little smaller.
A little small.
But for training, sparring, heavy bag work, you want bigger, more padded gloves.
Yes, more protection.
Protect your hands.
Protect your partner.
All right. Next up, hand wraps.
These are essential.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people think they're just to protect your opponent.
Right.
But they're really there to protect your own hands.
Exactly, yeah. Your delicate little bones and all the ligaments and tissues in your hands.
Yeah.
You need to support those. And there's actually a technique to wrapping them properly.
There is. Yeah, the book outlines a basic wrapping technique.
And the main thing is, they need to be firm enough to support, but not so tight that they're cutting off circulation.
Right. You want that sweet spot.
And he also mentions that you should keep your fingers spread and your hand muscles slightly tensed while you're wrapping them so that when your hand's relaxed, it's got, that nice snug fit.
Comfortable but supportive.
Exactly. So hand wraps, not disposable.
No. Wash them after every single use.
Yeah, all right, they get gross.
They get sweaty, they get bacteria.
And you can fold the Velcro back on itself
so
it's not sticking to everything in the wash.
It's a good advice.
And mesh laundry bag. That will keep them from getting tangled up in everything.
That's a good tip.
Okay, moving on to mouth guards.
Now we're getting serious.
Yeah, this is important stuff.
Yeah.
So basically, boil and bite versus custom. What's the difference?
So boil and bite, you heat them up in water, mold them to your teeth.
Those are usually cheaper.
Yeah, they're cheaper.
And easier to, do yourself.
Easier.
But he does recommend choosing one that's specifically designed for contact sports.
Yeah, specifically for MMA.
Yeah. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have custom mouth guards.
Now, these are more expensive.
But they give you a much better fit.
Better fit.
Better protection.
Yeah, superior protection.
He, the author, is a big advocate of custom mouth guards.
He is.
But he also says that regardless of which type you choose, the most important thing is the fit.
The fit is crucial.
It should feel snug. It shouldn't fall out when you open your mouth.
Yeah.
And you should be able to breathe and talk with relative ease.
You gotta breathe.
And, side note, if you have braces, you're going to need a special mouth guard that's designed to fit over both the top and bottom braces.
Bubble-sided mouth guard.
And in that case, talk to your orthodontist or your dentist.
Yeah.
They give you the best advice there. Okay, headgear. Does it prevent concussions?
That's the big question.
It is, and it's a tough one to answer. And the book actually does a really good job of giving a balanced perspective.
Because it seems like it would, right? More padding equals more protection.
But it's not that simple.
It's not.
The book actually points out that a lot of the brain trauma that you see in combat sports is not from the direct impact.
Right.
It's from the acceleration and deceleration of the head.
The movement of the brain inside the skull.
Exactly. And headgear doesn't necessarily reduce that movement.
Yeah, so it's not a guarantee.
And the book even mentions, this is kind of interesting, that rotational forces, like you get from a hook punch, are actually more likely to cause a concussion than a direct impact, like a jab.
That's really counterintuitive.
Yeah, very. So basically, headgear.
Yeah.
Maybe not as effective as people think.
It's more of a backup
in
case of misjudged strikes.
Yeah. Not an invitation to hit harder.
No, definitely not.
But he does mention that headgear might be a good idea for more intense sparring sessions.
With the understanding, of course.
Right. Both partners got to be on the same page.
Yeah.
And they need to understand that it has limitations.
It has limitations.
But it can, potentially reduce the severity of, cuts and things like that.
Superficial injuries.
Exactly. Yeah.
And of course, you got to keep it clean.
Oh, right. So, antibacterial wipes, let it dry thoroughly after every use.
Just like your gloves.
And leather conditioner for leather headgear.
Yeah.
We'll keep it in good shape. Okay, shin guards. I feel like those are a no-brainer.
Essential. Absolutely. Protect that shin bone.
And they protect not just your shin bone, but, the top of your foot as well.
The dorsal foot.
Yeah. Especially in MMA where, you're checking kicks and throwing leg kicks.
It can be brutal.
It's brutal.
Without shin guards.
And, shin-on-shin contact.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
Yeah.
It can actually cause real damage.
And it allows you to train with more confidence.
Absolutely.
You can really focus on technique.
And you even the author suggests, that beginners wear them when they're doing heavy bag work.
Yeah, because you're still learning the technique.
Right.
You don't want to be distracted by pain.
Exactly.
And again, keep them clean, wipe them down, let them dry, condition the leather.
Okay. Groin protectors.
Very important, especially for sparring.
Self-explanatory, I think.
Yes, especially with those leg kicks.
Exactly. And they are generally required for male stand-up and MMA competitions.
The rules for female competitors can vary.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
But for guys, definitely required.
But they're often banned
yeah.
in jiu-jitsu tournaments.
For safety reasons. You don't want them to get caught up in anything.
Okay, so let's talk about gis.
Ah, the gi. The uniform of the jiu-jitsu practitioner.
And they're thicker, right?
Thicker, yeah, than other martial arts uniforms.
Because they're specifically designed to withstand the pulling and the grappling.
All that friction, all that grabbing.
And when you're choosing a gi, the thickness actually matters.
It does.
Thicker gi can be harder to grip,
right.
which could give you an advantage.
Competitive advantage.
But they're also hotter.
Yeah. So it depends. A lot of people have different gis for different purposes.
And gi care, this is involved.
It's an art form. No bleach.
Right.
Spot clean any stains as soon as you can.
Right.
Cold water wash, and you want to use vinegar and baking soda.
Interesting.
Yeah. It helps keep them clean and fresh.
And then most important rule, no machine drying.
Do not put your gi in the dryer. It will shrink.
Air dry only.
Air dry only.
Okay, running shoes. This is a big one.
Very important.
Especially if you're doing, all the road work and conditioning that's required for MMA.
A good pair of shoes can prevent a lot of injuries.
Oh, yeah.
Shin splints, knee pain, foot problems.
And, people make the mistake of, thinking they can just grab any old pair of shoes.
Right.
But the book points out, if you buy brand new shoes that aren't designed for your foot.
For your biomechanics.
Yeah, or if they don't fit correctly.
Yeah.
That's just asking for trouble.
It is.
And the way your foot moves when you run, whether you pronate or supinate,
yeah.
that's going to dictate what kind of shoe is best for you.
And your weight matters too.
Yeah. Heavier people
Cushioning.
need more cushioning.
Yeah.
There are some basic guidelines for fit. Make sure you have about a thumb's width
up to toe
of space at the toe when you're standing.
Yeah.
They should be snug, but not too tight across the top of your foot.
And minimal heel slippage. You don't want them sliding around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And different brands, different models fit differently.
It's a jungle out there.
Yeah, so you got to experiment. Try on a few different ones.
Yeah.
Maybe wear them around the house before you go for a real run.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that they're comfortable.
Yeah.
And see if you can return them if they don't work out.
Yeah.
All right, heart rate monitors. Those are, that's a step up from just, feeling your pulse.
They are.
They can be really useful.
So useful, yeah.
Both for monitoring how hard you're working and for controlling the intensity of your training.
Much more accurate than trying to count your pulse manually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, the basic setup is a transmitter, which is usually like a chest strap.
Yeah, worn just below the pecs.
Yeah. And a receiver.
Yeah.
That could be a wristwatch.
Yeah.
Or more and more these days, it's just a smartphone app.
Oh, yeah.
But the placement of that chest strap is important.
It is.
If you want an accurate reading.
Centered, snug, but not too tight.
And a lot of people these days are using those Bluetooth heart rate straps.
Yeah.
That can connect to, fitness apps on your phone.
Yeah, it's a great option.
Yeah, really cost effective.
And then you can track your GPS location, your speed, your distance.
It's a lot of data.
A lot of data.
But just remember, cold weather can drain your phone battery faster if you're using it for that.
That is true.
All right. And just a last little piece of advice from the book.
Yeah.
If you're buying any of this equipment online, always check the return policy.
Always.
Make sure you know if you can return it if it doesn't fit or if, once you've actually used it in training.
It can save you a lot of hassle.
Absolutely. All right. So we are geared up. We are ready to go.
Let's train.
But before we do, let's talk about some basic training principles.
The foundation.
Yeah. And right off the bat, the book talks about monitoring your training volume and intensity.
Which is crucial for MMA because you're combining so many different types of training. You got your striking, you got your grappling, you got your strength and conditioning.
You got to find that balance between pushing yourself enough
to make progress
and allowing yourself enough recovery time.
So you don't burn out.
And there's this principle called the overload principle.
Oh, yeah. This is a big one. You have to gradually increase the demands you place on your body to get stronger, to get fitter, to improve your performance.
So if you're lifting weights, you gotta keep increasing the weight.
Right.
Or the reps.
Or the reps.
Or the sets.
But you can't just keep going up and up forever. You'll get overtrained.
And we'll talk about periodization later, which is how you kind of manage that. But there's also this principle of hard and easy days.
Oh, yeah. That's a simple one.
Yeah, it's kind of intuitive.
But it's important.
So you can't go 100% all the time.
Your body needs a break.
So you got to alternate those really intense days, whether that's sparring or anaerobic drills, plyometrics, those hard workouts, with easier days where you're focusing more on technique or active recovery.
Yeah, like a light jog or something.
Yeah, maybe some mobility work. And speaking of recovery, the book really hammers this point home. Recovery is essential.
It is.
It is just as important as the training itself.
If not more important.
And the author is very clear. You need at least 8 hours of good quality sleep per night. Minimum. And one really simple way that you can kind of keep tabs on your recovery is by tracking your morning heart rate.
So when you wake up in the morning, before you get out of bed,
still lying there,
just check your pulse.
It's a good indicator of how your body's doing.
And if you see significant increases, like 7 or 8 beats per minute above your normal.
Yeah, for a couple of days in a row.
That's a sign that you might be overtraining.
And you should, back off.
Back off.
Give your body a break. And we all know about overtraining, right?
It's a real thing.
It is.
And it can really hinder your performance.
And it can happen, in a couple of different ways. It can happen if you suddenly increase the volume or intensity of your training too much too quickly.
Yeah, your body can't adapt that fast.
Or it can happen gradually.
Right, if you're not recovering adequately between sessions.
And the book even mentions, things like a consistently elevated resting heart rate.
Yeah.
Can be a sign. Recurring overuse injuries.
Yeah, those little niggles that just don't go away.
Frequent illnesses.
Right.
Because your immune system is suppressed.
Yeah, you're run down.
And even changes in body composition.
Yeah, it can really throw everything off.
So you really got to be mindful of overtraining. And kind of the flip side of that is, the fear of detraining.
Oh, yeah. A lot of athletes worry about that.
They think that if they take a couple days off, they're going to lose all their progress.
Right.
And that can actually, ironically, lead to overtraining.
Exactly.
Because they end up pushing themselves.
When they should be resting.
When they should be resting. So, rest days are important.
They are.
But you don't want to be taking rest days every other day.
Yeah.
You need to find that balance.
Yeah.
And consistency is key.
Absolutely.
So, a well-structured training schedule that you stick to.
Consistently is going to help you avoid both overtraining and detraining.
And also injuries.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
All right. So let's talk about warm-ups.
Getting ready for the main event.
Yeah. And this is not just, a couple of stretches.
No, this is a crucial part of the training.
And the book talks about how, a proper warm-up can actually help reduce your risk of injury.
Right.
Although, the science is still being studied there.
There's still a lot we don't know.
But, some of the benefits, it increases blood flow.
To the muscles. Yeah.
Increases cardiac output.
Gets your heart pumping.
Raises muscle temperature.
Yeah.
All of which contribute to better performance.
Makes sense.
And it takes about 2 minutes for your body to actually get enough oxygen to the muscles.
Yeah.
So you got to warm up for at least 2 minutes.
At least.
And the timing of your warm-up matters too?
It does.
Ideally, it should end about 5 to 10 minutes before your main training or competition.
Right. You don't want to be cooling down when you're supposed to be warmed up.
Exactly.
Okay.
Cool downs.
Bringing it back down.
Yeah. So after you've had your big workout.
Right.
A cool down is basically just like a period of light activity. And stretching.
Yeah. Like a slow walk. Some gentle stretching.
And it helps your heart rate gradually return to normal. Prevents blood from pooling in your legs.
Which can cause dizziness.
Yeah. And it can help clear those metabolic byproducts from your bloodstream.
But it won't necessarily prevent DOMS.
Yeah, DOMS, which is delayed onset muscle soreness.
Yeah, that's the soreness you feel the next day.
That's going to happen anyway. All right, so we've warmed up, we've trained, we've cooled down.
Now for the science.
Yeah. Let's talk about how our bodies actually adapt to this training.
The physiology behind it all.
Yeah, and understanding this is really important because it helps you design a more effective training program.
And it helps you interpret those physiological markers.
Right, like heart rate.
Exactly. So you can monitor your intensity and your recovery.
So the cardiorespiratory system, that's basically our heart and lungs, right?
That's it.
And it's what allows us to take in oxygen and deliver it to our muscles and remove waste products.
And we all know about fighters gassing out, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's the cardiorespiratory system failing.
So, endurance training can improve that significantly.
Yeah, it makes your heart and lungs more efficient.
The heart itself, I mean, it's a muscle